You're listening to Footy Prime, the podcast, with Danny Dicchio, Craig Forrest, and James Sharman. Today, we welcome David Clanachan from the CPL. For Dan Wong, director, and Jeff Cole, announcer. Let's get it going.
Thank you, Jeff Cole. But the most amazing part about Footy Prime, the podcast, as we do it from our various abodes, is just how smooth the operations are prior to the podcast. You know, it's like we just show up, boom, record, here we are. Welcome to Footy Prime, the podcast. Sharman here, Dicchio here, Forrest here. Listen, today we're being fueled by our good friends at Amsterdam Brewing Company. Now, at the end of today's show, we'll actually have a little tasting. We will review our various flavors. I've got the blonde here. Allow me to start things off by just filling up the pint glass here. So we thank you, Amsterdam, very much. I should mention we're actually taping today on Sunday afternoon. It's not Monday morning, although if it was, we'd be doing exactly the same thing. But cheers to everyone. Thank you for joining us. We will get to a lot of topics today. Oh, God, that's good. Including a little Q&A session with Deech and Craig. But to start with, we're very happy. I think he might be our first ever return guest. That's generally because people refuse to come back for a second time. But we want to thank him anyway. David Clanachan, Commissioner of the Canadian Premier League. Thank you so much for joining us once again here, David. I know it's going to be a very tough time for you, obviously, professionally, as well as personally, you know, as it is for all of us. But first question is, ownership in the CPL right now, are they still being patient? Are they still committed and motivated, considering what's transpiring?
Well, let me first, before I start, let me thank you for inviting me back. I rarely get invited back somewhere once I've been on anything or invited to anyone's home for that matter. So I'm actually quite chuffed that you invited me back.
That's awesome. So we're in the same boat.
So, but no, James, to answer your first question, no doubt, our owners have been fantastic. I mean, the club owners, who, as you guys know, the way the model works is they own the league as well. So, but they've been very, very patient. They've been patient up to this point in time. It makes it difficult, right? We've talked about this, and I know you guys know this. And the reality is, when you're in live sports, like with any other entertainment type industry that involves gatherings of crowds, you know, if there are no one in the seats, then there's no revenue. And no revenue means no games, and quite frankly, no jobs. And that's what most of sport is facing globally today. Is it's the toughest thing I've ever seen in my life.
I mean, David, as well as, you know, it could be worse time. It couldn't be. Second year, going into your second year, you know, when you look at leagues that have established themselves over a century, decades, it must be a difficult time for you and to keep a connection with the actual fans that you've already established.
Yeah, Craig, you're right. Like I think, you know, and we've talked about this before. I think we did a very good job last year connecting with the fans and the communities, and we really started to build, you know, brands at the community level, but we also built a pretty decent brand from a league level as well. So we were pretty gunned up about getting into the second season. We were working towards it, and then obviously this happened. So it's not the way obviously it was planned. No one could have planned it that way. But having said that, you know, we're very much glasses half full type of people. So we're looking at different ways to entertain and connect. And, you know, one of the clubs started with their players just calling fans and supporters just to ask how they were doing. Not selling anything, not anything like that, but just saying, hey, how are you? You know, you need to know we appreciate the fact that you really supported us last year. We're looking forward to getting out playing in front of you again, and just wanted to ask how you and your family are doing. You wouldn't believe how that caught on like wildfire. Now other teams have been doing it. It was players who it wasn't somebody at the office level, the league office, or at the club office level. This was started by players who decided to do that, and those are the types of things that make a difference. So we keep working forward. But you know, I look at the opportunity here. You know, we were just in training camp. We weren't in the middle of our season, so that was probably fortuitous. We know that we went to a single table. this year, which also made it easier that if we do start back up again, we can adapt and be very flexible. And then the third thing was we went from we went to a format that allowed us to have an 8th team, which balanced our schedule, which obviously eliminated a number of games and match days because of that. Still with the same number of match days overall, but just it fit the schedule better, which makes it more flexible for us. So I feel good about where we are. As long as we're told by the government and the health officials that it's okay to go. And once they say go, we'll react appropriately and quickly, and we'll get into it. That's the key thing. But right now, we've all gotten the reason why we're doing this, all in different homes is we've got to worry about everybody else first. And I know, everyone says that, but it's a real thing.
I know this past week on The Fan, you were speaking and you mentioned how, as yet, there's been no real serious consideration to playing in front of empty stadiums. Obviously, as you mentioned before, their gate is so crucial in a league like the CPL. At what point, though, do you start considering that? Is that when you get the word from the government, listen, no matter what happens, there's going to be no fans in stadiums for the near future?
Yeah, I think, but even then, James, I think you've got to really think it through, right? Because this is not it for many clubs, especially for a brand new league that's only got 1 year under its belt. I mean, we're a brand new baby, right? The reality is this is a revenue issue, not a cost issue. I mean, that's what it really boils down to. So we've got to work through that. Now, having said that, you also there are opportunities here, and I like to think that, with only an 8-team league based out of Canada, we don't cross international borders. We have relatively smaller lineups compared to other types of sports leagues, if you want to call it. So there's some advantages that we should be more nimble, we should be more flexible, and we should be able to adapt to the circumstances or the cards we're dealt. So I think we'll get there. It's interestingly enough, we're getting suggestions from right across Canada on things that we should do going forward if we're allowed to. But at this point in time, right now, we're only in April, right? And so we know that we can still react. It really depends on how the country comes out of this, and the sooner we knock this pandemic down in this country and take care of ourselves that way, the sooner we'll get back to what we really enjoy, which is watching live sports events.
David, would it be a possibility, is it something you've looked at, the group with the owners and the teams, that the scenario that you may not have a season, and could you withstand that as a league? And potentially, if it also came about where you could play in October, say, would there be possibly some kind of tournament format that you could still get some sort of champion without ruining the integrity of the league?
It's a great question, Craig. You know what? I would never say never to anything. I don't like to do that. October, when you get late in the year, we all know this. In this country, it's very, very difficult. Having said that, entertainment comes in many forms, right? So yeah, there's lots that we could do. I mean, there's people are just dying for. That's a terrible phrase, but people are really looking for a way to be entertained and be involved, and everyone you talk to, that's what they talk about. I had a friend of mine said, if I rarely watch golf on television for extended periods of time, I would literally watch 18 hole golf tournament all at one time. 4 hours I'd sit in front of my TV just to watch it. So I think you can see that tells you how people feel right now. But there will be opportunities. Not quite sure what they look like today. But I'm sure we'll toss those things around as we get there. By the way, if you have a great idea, Craig, I'm all ears.
Craig's not an idea guy.
No.
David, just a quick question on the players. From the players' point of view, I've spoken to a couple of them, and obviously players are a different breed, and they're very frustrated and bored at the moment. And now with the news of last week where players' wages have been cut and staff and coaches' wages have been cut, is there any way possible that during the season there could be a way of these players getting their wages that they've deferred back again? Because as we all know, CPL is a new league, and a lot of the players are not on big money anyway. So to defer 25%, I think it was, is actually a big amount to a lot of these players. So I just want to know, is there a possibility that they can maybe regain some of that money?
So that's why we made it a deferral, Danny. We recognize the players are doing what they can, and I'll be frank with you. The players are making a great sacrifice the same way as everyone in the league is, the coaches, the technical staff, the club staffs, and including the league office and everyone that works at the office. Everyone is pitching in on this, and it's the right thing to do. We've told everyone that we'll come out of this much stronger than we were going into it. But having said that, the deferral for the players is a recognition of the fact that we understand how important they are to the game. We don't know what we don't know at this time, right? So that's the hard part. We said, look, at the appropriate time, we'll sit down and we'll go through this. But that's all we can do, because none of us have a crystal ball, and so we've been very clear about that with the players.
Yeah, and what I would say as well, David, speaking to a lot of them, that they were willing to do this for the forsaking of the league. They want this league to carry on, like all of us do. We know it's still in baby steps. We know it's still a league that is new, and the majority of the players said, if this is what we have to do to keep this league going, we just want to play football and we just want to continue to build this league. So there's a lot of good kind of stuff coming from the players that speak, and some of the coaches as well.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you. When you look at anyone that jumps in and participates in a startup like we did last year, I've got a lot of time for folks they're prepared to put their reputations on the line. They're prepared to pour their heart out for the game. We saw much better football than people expected. Seeing the teams play in the preseason down in the Dominican Republic, I was excited about the fact that there was going to be competition, hard competition, right? Where people they cared and they were there to win. That's the important thing. And again, a lot of players now, you're hearing of players that want to come to play in Canada because they love the country. We all know that. That's why we're all here, right? But they love the opportunity to be seen, because here's this brand new league, and frankly, there's a lot of people around the globe that are watching what we're doing over here because they like the fact that we think outside the box a little bit.
Yeah, David, last week the government announced, I think, $500 million for cultural heritage, sports. I'm assuming the CPL will be the type of league that this would be eyeing. Is that what you believe as well? Have you spoken to the government regarding that?
Yeah, we've obviously, with a lot of the other sports leagues are speaking with the government and just letting them know, listen, this is what this is all about. There's a greater goal here, guys. Right? At the end of the day, my personal opinion is that the oncoming Canadian Premier League had some influence on the decision to bring the World Cup to from a united bid to not only the U.S. and Mexico, but also Canada, because there's never been a World Cup anywhere, men's World Cup anywhere, where there wasn't a men's professional top tier one league. So we were there. And as we all know, the cities have all put the bids in, the three cities, Montreal, Toronto, and Edmonton, but the matches have not been awarded yet. So there's an potential economic boom coming towards us in 2026, especially if we were to get a 10 or a dozen games, because survey says it's worth about $100 million in economic value per game. And we know what happened when Canada Soccer brought the women's game World Cup to Canada and what it did. The men's game, we know just in Russia alone, what was it, 1.1 billion fans globally watched the final. At that time, 3.5 billion total fans through the course of the tournament. It's massive when you think about the size of 2019. The 2019 Super Bowl played a few months ago, only had 150 million viewers worldwide. And everyone uses the Super Bowl as kind of like that's the penultimate, right? Well, not really. The World Cup final, I think, really is. So it's there's a big opportunity here, and the government understands that. I mean, the government understands how important football is to our culture now. You've heard me say it before. It's the fastest growing participation sport. There's 15% of the population claims they play. At least once a week, every week now. It's that the surveys have gone way up. It's a male-female sport, all gender. There's ease of entry for young kids to get in. There's just so much about it, and all the immigration that we're growing the country in, they all come like we did, knowing the game and knowing the true global game. So I think the government respects that and understands it and wants to be part of that global stage.
That's really important, Dave, and I hope that they do, because, like you said, it plays a massive part in the culture of Canada, even though many of the major networks, even sports networks, don't cover it as they should. But the impact is massive. It's major, and I hope that they support it, because you're right, that 2026 World Cup, we need to start investing in it and into people and players and infrastructure to support that World Cup that's not that far away down the road.
No, it'll be. You know what, Craig? It'll be honest before we know it. There's a tremendous amount of investment that's going to go into that. Obviously, as you think about what has to be done between now and then. But there's a return for it, right? And we can see that. Even FIFA now they don't look for brand new stadiums to be built. They want the facilities that are already built to be used. Too many white elephants out there in the world from past World Cups or Olympic Games or things like that, right? So it's much better for companies to do it. But what it does is it energizes those that maybe aren't full-on supporters to become, just completely engaged in the game itself and understand how exciting it is when you see the way those of us that have followed it forever just get a little bit passionate about it.
Hey, speaking of FIFA, David, would they possibly support being in a startup league, World Cup coming up? They don't want it to fail. Would they be willing to throw in a few bucks to support the league?
Well, as you know, Craig, they're already doing some of that. So, and they've announced quite a big fund that's available, because they're very concerned about leagues around the world, especially once you get past the first division or top tier, you get into second and third division. There's some real issues out there, right? I was asked this question a couple of days ago, and I made the comment, they have many children right now, and so they can't favor one versus the other. Although I'd like to think since we're the newest, maybe they'd help us. But and I'm joking a little bit, but the reality is they've got to take care of everybody. So yeah, they've already said that they're going to do that for other. They put this fund together. I don't know what's going to happen with it, but hopefully they'll remember us over here in the cold north.
It is amazing to think that out of this challenging time, a league like the CPL might get more eyeballs on it, because it is better positioned than a lot of leagues to bounce back. As far as no border crossings, etc., etc. So that I find a fascinating element to watch. More people almost discover the CPL coming out of this. David, I'm going to ask you, the PFA a fledgling union announced a few days ago now, basically the players' union for CPL players. Are they already involved in planning with you guys right now for the future and where you might be going?
Well, James, what I will tell you is I know as much about this as what you do. I've never received a phone call and or a letter about any of this. So I made the comment the other day, for all I know, it's fake news. Now, I know it's not, obviously. I mean, you guys have probably talked to people that are players that are involved in it, but I've not. The league office I've not received anything from them. So not an email, not a phone call, not a text, and certainly not a letter in regard to it. So I can't really comment more than that. And so I can't, and obviously you can't engage either when you've not really been invited. So that's where we are.
Let's be honest with that. I mean, eventually there was going to be a player union, whether it's this year or next year or the year after. Every league in the world generally has a player association. Timing doesn't seem great, though. Would that be fair to say?
It's a little odd. I will say that to you. It's new, so it's a new league, right? So yeah, but having said that, I don't share the opinion that it was inevitable. I come from a school. I'm a business guy, and I come from a school of thought of that. At one point in time, some things like this were required across the globe because of the way things were handled. I believe that if you're as an employee, why would you put somebody else in between you and your employer? I would rather speak to them directly because then they understand the true passion of it. I'm not sending somebody who's taking a cut out of it to have those discussions. But I mean, again, I don't know anything about this. I don't even know if it's for real, where it's at. I don't know if all the players are involved. I don't know anything, and so much more than that, I can't say.
Well, I guess we better do some digging around, eh? Hey, Deech, you're the player rep here, apparently. So
Danny will probably know. Danny can probably give me some lessons off screen, maybe.
Well, listen, Dave, I know you're a busy man. We thank you for your time. Any other questions, guys, before we say farewell to David?
No, that's it. That was amazing, David. Thanks a lot for giving us the insight of what the situation is at this present moment. All the very best to everybody in the CPL and at the head office about staying healthy first, number one, and then second of all, getting this league started back up and back to enjoying football once again.
Yeah, thanks, guys. It's very obviously. Thank you for everything you do, and I know you've been big supporters of the CPL, and we will be forever grateful for that. Thank you.
Thanks very much, mate. Take care. Stay safe. Can only imagine what the weeks have been for a commissioner of a sports league right now, and sports is still really important. We're seeing that now more and more. At first, I was okay. Bit of a break from sports, not the worst thing in the world, but now it's like, man, I really want some sports back. I need a distraction. I need to, remove myself from my family for a little bit each night. Might be a bit cruel.
I'm sure your family is actually voting for sports.
Yeah, they are. We have come back for crying out loud. We're sick of you, Dad. Go away.
I know that's where my family is. They're like, for God's sake, somebody get sports back on so they can get off our backs.
Hey, Sharms, I know you're not a big golf fan, but that might be the first sport we see.
Yeah.
You'll be watching it, I tell you. You'll be watching it, and you'll be betting on it, you'll be doing everything.
What do you make of that? Hey, Wonga, I know you've been following this pretty closely, the whole the golf situation and how that there might well be tournaments played in the very near future without, obviously, any spectators. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, you know what? It's one of the sports you can do that with. Let's think about it. The other one was, I just read it this morning, about France and a tournament where all the players come in, they play in this isolated arena, but at least get a result. And Craig and I were talking about it off screen. Can you imagine all broadcast, the amount of bets going on, like just to get that going? So I'm going to reach out to my buddy, went to university and played football with him from Burlington. He runs the Colonial. He's the sales director of the Colonial Golf Tournament, which is going to be the first golf tournament. So I'm going to get him on the show so he can talk about that just to see the logistics of it. I mean, when I just think of, is it just like, Craig, it's just like you and I going out and playing golf with Amber and Duthie? Is that what it is?
Well, you know what?
Like, is that what we're up for?
The only problem is, Wonger, is that, and David touched on it, I'm not sure if it was before a conversation before we started taping, was that what happens if one of the players, a caddy, somebody involved in that golf tournament gets sick or take it back and their relatives get sick? What happens then?
Yeah, that's a tough one. And the liability is huge. But even more than that, you think liability and you think how out of shape some of those golfers look. These guys are prime candidates for getting COVID.
Yeah,
rapid testing's the answer.
Maybe every 18 you got to do a new one.
I don't look like caddies.
Make them carry their own bag.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, then they'll definitely go down. The caddies are fitter than the golfers.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Imagine like Craig Stadler playing or something. Whew.
He was.
What about Mickelson? That's the softest guy who's ever walked. What 50? Like what is it? 10 About
10K.
15 to 20 kilometers a week. These guys walk.
Well, have you seen his calves?
Yeah, well,
Can't say I have, Greg.
I mean,
what do his calves look like?
Google
Does he shave them?
Phil Mickelson's calves.
I'm going to do it right now.
Do it.
All right. Am I going down a wormhole here by chance? Or
No.
is something horrible going to come up here?
It's nothing dodgy.
Phil Mickelson. Phil Mickelson.
Not safe for
Make sure you
work.
spell calves right.
Oh, all right. Jesus. There's some nice calves.
Well, I don't know.
Right.
They're massive.
They're not bad. I'm surprised. I won't lie to you. He's got
They'd have to be strong. They got to carry that upper body.
Hey, is Phil Mickelson the guy that looks like Mrs. Doubtfire?
That's Andy Lyle, isn't it?
No, that's
Who's that one? The Scot.
John Daly.
Colin Montgomery.
Oh, Colin.
When he used to do interviews, his lip would get stuck. Remember, his lip would get stuck up here. You get.
You know what? There's actually a Phil Mickelson calves workout pops up here.
Sure, there is. Of course, there is. Charms.
Phil Mickelson teaches you.
This is an educational channel.
Was that?
Dave, this is an educational channel.
Yeah. Wow. Well, there you have it. Phil is fit. Who knew that, eh? But yeah, listen. Are you guys? Are you guys missing sports more and more, or are you kind of getting used to no sports?
You know, I'm sort of getting used to it in a way. Like I'm watching crazy shit on TV, like the Tiger King and stuff like that. I don't know if you guys seen that.
Oh,
I refuse to.
It's a
kids
different level of crazy.
Legendary.
batshit.
You got to watch it just to see how crazy it is, because it's hard to explain. It's just, it explains a lot.
A lot.
As far as the Trump thing goes and how he got elected.
How brain dead people can actually have a beating heart.
Apparently, it's the #1 watched show in North America right now.
Is it really? Yeah, wouldn't
That?
surprise me at all.
Yeah.
And it's better than sports, right, Craig?
Oh, it's not better than sports, but there was only a few episodes. I don't know how many there were, but apparently there's another one coming out, and there's a best of or something. I don't know.
Yeah, there's actually a documentary coming out, I think, on Carol Baskin, who was a big part of the show, and essentially he went to jail because of a plot to kill her. Anyway,
Yeah.
You haven't watched it, Sharms?
No, clearly I have.
Oh, okay, I was going to say you know a lot about it.
I've watched it, yeah. No, but in the show, obviously, the big kind of theme is that she killed her husband, right? And the rumor fed him to her tigers.
I think she
To
did.
the Tigers.
So this new series coming out is looking into that story, apparently. Carol Baskin peeling away the layers, so to speak.
Isn't there a second season coming out just shortly here? They rushed it to production.
Probably.
Yeah, that'll be that one, to try to find out whether she fed her husband to the lions or tigers.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And they're talking about how Trump might actually pardon the guy.
Yeah,
This is what my kids are telling me.
It was brought up at the White House. Yeah, it was brought up. A reporter asked him. That's how nuts it is.
Yeah.
So what do you think about the governor of Florida making the WWE an essential service?
Oh, I think he's brilliant.
Fake.
He's on it.
wrestling
They should send the
is an
kids back to
essential
school.
service.
Really, eh?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
I didn't hear that.
that guy. That is nuts. The beaches are open again.
We
Yeah,
opened them last night, I think, at midnight.
yeah. And people fled there. My God.
Of course they did.
What a place to live
Well,
right now.
that Tiger King is going to bring back the mullet too, I would assume. So it'd be interesting to see. I mean, I like to see Dicchio with a mullet just throw it in, and Clanachan. Dave, you could throw in one. That would be a good look. I know. Look,
It'd be perfect.
our
He'd be like
announcer already has one.
Chinese gay, mullet, gun toting.
Hey, Pete, you made fun of my hair before you went on air today. If you did grow your hair, just say there's a world shortage of razors. Where would the hairline be now?
Chia Pet.
Well, yeah, both fullbacks are really pushing on at the moment. So Roberto Carlos and Cafu are like, they won't come back after going on a 60-yard run. So probably start halfway on the back of my head. But I reckon I could still get the old Craig mullet from back in his Ipswich days with a little bit of curl at the bottom.
You look like Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, Steven Seagal. That's funny, man.
Steven Seagal. Yeah,
all the way back and just let the flow. Party at the back, business at the front. That's me.
Own it. I say own it. Hey, Craig, you had a perm, didn't you? Wasn't there perm back in those days?
I never permed it.
Really? Natural curls.
I had really curly hair and it just disappeared, all of it.
I was thinking about Sharm's hair right now. He looks like an older Peter Parker.
Yeah. A cow.
An out of shape
licked him right up the
Marvel.
There's a big cow's lip. Yeah, there is. I know. This is like au naturel. This is. There's nothing in this.
I could only dream of having that.
I thought he looked more like a homeless Rick Astley.
Well, he'll never give you up.
Never gonna give you up.
Someone definitely give him fucking Sharm.
Hey, Rick Astley's fat. Hey, wait a minute. What are you saying here?
PH.
I know. I'm quite proud of my hair. Quite proud of my hair.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Listen.
Going back to sports, Jumps.
What's that?
Going back to sports, I am dreadfully missing sports of all kinds, because I think when you're in the home and there's so much noise, as you know, in my home, just to get away from that noise and turn on the TV and watch either a college game or a European game or a game of anything from basketball to American football to football.
You didn't say baseball.
Baseball. I'll even turn on baseball and watch it with my young'un because he's a big baseball fan. Just that excitement of just seeing like a live sports going on with a crowd, whether at baseball they're into it or not. They're eating hot dogs and shooting the shit. But I just miss it. Like, I think we're going to come out of this and really, really understand how much sports means to a lot of people. And even from a personal point of view, I signed for my club, QPR, when I was 9 years old. So it's an environment, an atmosphere that I've been involved with for like 35, 36 years. So for me not to be on the football pitch, the field every day, or not to be in that training environment is really testing to me. And I found it hard. The last 2 weeks, I found it really, really hard in just trying to find myself and what I do. And now I can really understand what it's like for players that retire and don't have anything to do after the game. So it's been a process for me in trying to find stuff to do away from football, which is very hard because it's all I've been involved with since I've been 9 years old.
And you had to introduce yourself to the family.
Yeah, and I get on really well with my family. We do our WWE wrestling over dinner and whatever it is. I've got my three-legged dog who's a British bulldog who's running around like a lunatic as well. So it's not I'm living in a quiet house. It's just that I miss the normality of being on the football field because that's been my life for a long, long time.
And it still is for you, right? I mean, you work with a club, at a club, you're on the field every single day. But, I think it is in many ways, I know I joke a lot about it, but it is redefining, I think, the importance of sport, in our life, in our culture as well. And I think even Trudeau mentioned that last week as well, how important it is. It gives people that escape. They can laugh, they can cry, they can get, engaged in something other than the mundane. And I think that's so, so important. So sport, listen, we understand certain clubs, certain leagues are going to struggle out of this. We know that. But perhaps in the long term, the big picture, sports will come out of this okay. And there'll be this renewed love for it, perhaps.
Yeah.
I think sports, guys, I think sports it will lead us out of this. I really do.
Could be right.
I think it will kind of be that knock-on effect to society getting back to normal. I really do, because people are gonna wish for that, getting together, cheering about the same thing, debating, all that comes with it. I mean, it's somewhat therapeutic for all of us. Let's be honest.
Yeah, for sure. In many ways, it began it for us too, didn't it? It didn't almost seem real until the NBA said, you know what, we're shutting down. And then a day later, the NHL and then the CPL, obviously, with your pre-seasons and the NHL. When that began to happen, it suddenly kind of slapped us in the face. Like, man, okay, this isn't just a news story now from somewhere else in the world.
Yeah.
Well,
Could you imagine how Deitch's three-legged dog feels?
Not great.
Dave, what was the David? What was the lead up to making the decision? Because obviously you had to make the decision.
Yeah.
What was that 2-week period like?
Well, it was. So here's the interesting thing, right? We go to St. Lucia every year for the month of March. So I'm in St. Lucia. Yeah, I'm in St. Lucia, but I'm on 4, 5, 6 hours a day on Zoom calls. I didn't even know what Zoom calls were until March, right? And I kept saying to guys back in the office, I'm like, guys, I got to be honest with you. Like, I'm not seeing anything down here. No cases. Even when we actually left the island, they kicked us off the island because Canadian government said you got to come home. They kicked us off the island. We were there about 2.5 weeks out of 4 to 5. I think we were going to be there this year, and they still had only had 2 cases. Where it really hit home for me because I wasn't seeing any of it, other than we were able to get City TV down there because I don't know, it's a Canadian resort. Anyways, point was, when I heard the government in St. Lucia was literally turning away cruise ships that were trying to come in because they had shown in the medical records that they maybe had a case or 2 on board or more, and they were choosing health of their citizens and their island over the economics. That's when I knew this thing was like, there was a lot more to be known that we didn't as a public know yet. So think about small little Caribbean islands with 80% of their economy tied to tourism and turning away in a 1 week span 4 large cruise ships.
I think it's got everybody off guard, David, really. I mean, It certainly caught the governments, even Canada. That's hence why me and Danny got involved with this particular initiative, Conquer COVID-19, to try to help out with the shortage of PPE and baby monitors, anything they could help out with the healthcare workers, because they're really, really short. And we talk about the support that the players have had to try to keep this league going. I think that that's what team sports really do teach us when we're growing up, is that, okay, somebody's in trouble, we need to help out. On the field, we do that. If somebody's in trouble, go support them. And we've seen that with sports like no other thing I've ever seen before personally, where sports have stepped up to try to help out, whether that's the Premier League players trying to help out the NHS over in England, or even lower divisions, because we have to think about all those lower divisions, non-league, the football needs. It's basically fractured right now, and we need to support that. And that's what teams and sports does. It's a team builder, and I'm glad that at least we could play a part in such a small way from an entertainment point of view, which obviously is important to come back, but also to support our health workers and everybody that needs our help at the moment.
No, you're absolutely right, Craig. I mean, everyone has really stepped up, and I think the sports world has stepped up. You don't hear any athletes complaining, about not being able to apply their trade or anything like that. I think everyone's done exactly the right, and that's what surprised me the most, is people have really gotten on board and really done what they needed to do. No complaining, no moaning about their lives whatsoever. It's a much bigger picture, and people have gotten to that very quickly, by and large.
And then one thing about football too, speaking of our own sport, is that most of the football players come from working class backgrounds, so they have a certain awareness of social issues. Certainly, I found that growing up in the UK.
Yeah, I would agree with that too. I mean, it's they're certainly, they're in touch with the communities they come from and the ones where they live today, and obviously work and play.
Yeah, I mean, we've had so many great conversations the last number of weeks on this very podcast. Others I've listened to as well, but I am still looking forward to talking about sports and matches and footballers and, dare I say it, VAR. I'd die right now to freaking talk some VAR, some controversy and that. I hate talking about that stuff, right? But something that just is football related. So listen, we're almost out of time here, but I want to get to this quick Q&A with Deitch and Craig here. I think sometimes, and I hate to give them any kind of credit, right? But we talk about so many issues each week. We almost forget sometimes that they actually have some pretty decent careers themselves, and they've got some pretty good stories. So I've got like 5 or 6 questions here, all right? And it's not rapid fire per se, but be somewhat concise. Brevity is important here. All right, so let's start with this, okay? Craig, let's start with you. What are you most proud about your football playing career?
Playing in the Premier League. Being the first Canadian to play in the Premier League.
Nice save there, by the way, slipping the Canadian angle in there. Well done. Deech, how about you?
I don't know. I think, like, my dream as a youngster was to be a professional footballer from a very young age, and to be one of the minority to actually make it. There's a huge amount of discipline and dedication.
What do you mean, Italian?
Huh?
You mean Italian minority?
I couldn't hear you there.
I thought you said minorities. I thought you were talking about your Italian minority.
Oh, no. Minorities in actually making it to the pro level, as every kid in England wants to make it to be a professional. So to make it was I was fortunate, I was lucky, but also put a lot of dedication in. But I have to say, one of my proudest moments was definitely scoring the first goal here for Toronto FC. Coming over, just being part of an expansion team in England, as Craig will tell you, we have no idea what an expansion team is because most of our clubs are like hundreds of years old. So to come and play for a new team where I had no idea what was going on, in a new city with a bunch of crazy fans that were dying for football in the city, and bundling the first goal in and being a part of that was a proud moment for me.
And the first red card as well, right? So that's big.
Yeah, that could be. That wasn't my career, but.
All right. What's your biggest regret of your playing career, Craig?
Biggest regret: losing to Mexico in 1993 in the game in Toronto at varsity. When if we had won the game, we would have gone to the World Cup directly.
That's a good answer. Yeah.
Fuck.
You're right, Craig.
If we had thousands of listeners, they'd be saying "fuck" at the same time there as well. But
that's right. We were all saying the same thing.
Were you there, David?
No, I wasn't.
Oh, good. I tell you what, I think every Mexican in north of the Mexican border and in Mexico were there. I know that much.
They travel well.
They travel well. The CSA, they said, "Oh, we guarantee it'll be all Canadian fans," and we came out, we got whistled, booed.
Wow, yeah, that era of Canadian football, huh? Wow. Yeah. All right, Deech, your biggest regret?
Biggest regret was missing the FA Cup final.
Yeah.
Again, I go back to being a young boy and watching the FA Cup final in the summer every year, and it was a dream for every player or every boy to play in an FA Cup final. And I had that taken away from me by a referee that showed no remorse, no fucking actual human nature, just for a handbags fight that I had with Wes Morgan a couple of weeks before the FA Cup final. He didn't even review it, didn't even look at it, and said no.
What was his name, Peach?
His name was I Am a Wanker.
You mentioned before how every English schoolboy grew up wanted to be a professional and playing in the FA Cup final as well.
Yeah.
We all did it right on the street with our mates. We all did it, and you were that close. It must have been just crushing.
Yeah, and also we were like the fairy tale story of being Millwall getting to the FA Cup final against Manchester United, and their host of stars with Ronaldo, Beckham, all of them were in the team, and there's us kind of likely lads turning up with Dennis Wise as our coach and Timmy Cahill, our Australian superstar, and we didn't really have a chance, but to lose
it was almost beats like the old Wimbledon team, wasn't it? When they faced Liverpool at that time.
Yeah, very much so. And it was a great day out for the Millwall fans and for everyone involved, but it was a horrendous day for me. And I actually contemplated giving up football after that decision, because I was so down in the dumps, because I had an okay career. I played for some decent clubs, but again, I go back, that was my dream, to play in an FA Cup final, and to have that taken away from me so late in my career, I just thought, fuck it, I don't want to play no more. So
who convinced you to stay in the game?
Actually, my wife did, and Ray Wilkins, who was the assistant coach at the time, and they did a great job with me. They brought me into all the team meetings. They got me a suit made up. They really made me feel a part of it. But I had to go away for like 10 days just to get away from it all, because, as you know, the build up to the FA Cup final is part of the actual occasion of playing in that FA Cup final as well. Like the media attention, the build up at the hotel and stuff like that, and it really got to me. I was in a deep place at the time.
The thing is, Deech, when things like that are certainly happen, and it's happened to everybody, that you have to try to just remember and think about all the positives, and the fact that you actually were there, you got the team there, and it was an incredible day. You know, you went on to play even, and did great things. You scored the first goal for Toronto FC. It's about bouncing back, and, you did that really well.
Hey, yeah. Deech, had they have won the final, would that have been harder for you?
No. It was purely missing out on being out there, walking out with my teammates. I had all tickets for my family made up, and I gave all those tickets away as well. I didn't want anyone there. It was a really hard occasion for me, because I knew it was going to be a tough game anyway. You're playing against the Galacticos of Manchester United, and it was a tough time. It really was. It was something that I had to be a part of, because I didn't want to let the team down. I'd already let the team down anyway, but it was an experience that I would never want to wish on my worst enemy.
Remember the broadcast and them saying at the end that had Danny Dichio played today, it would have been a very different story.
No.
Yeah, 5-1.
Yeah.
Why don't you bug him, Sharms?
What's that?
Why don't you bug him?
All right, let's move on then. Hey, Craig, who was
Holy shit!
Yeah, just pin him down and stick a knife in him, Sharp.
He's in therapy for it.
So Craig built you right back up, Danny, and then Jarman just cut you off at the knees.
We've been doing it for years, Dave.
That's used to that.
Poor guy's at home for 2 weeks. He's trying to find himself. He's brought up bad memories of the FA Cup final, and Sharms is just digging him in.
This is helping, though, Jeff. This is helping.
It's definitely helping, isn't it? We'll get to the beer tasting very shortly. One more question for you, fellas. Hey, Craig, who was the best captain you ever played for?
Best captain, Johnny Wark.
John Wark, ex-Liverpool legend. Nice one.
Mm.
And what was that? What was his style of captaincy?
Led by example. 3 days ago. Honestly, he was so far ahead. He used to say he was 3 days ahead. So he'd be like, you go for this magnificent run, and none of our players were like Liverpool that you could freaking find him, right? So he'd do a run and nobody would find him. And he's like, 3 days ago. Somebody would try it. And he's like, oh, it's too late.
Was his crush Miss Piggy? Because he sounds like Kermit.
Oh, he sounded like he had an underbite, a little bit of underbite, right?
Did he have the big tash when you played with him?
He had a tash. He's got a tash now.
Is he really? He's still got it?
Oh, he's never. Yeah,
it's a great tash.
Up until recently, I think he's work. He must be. Oh man, he must be nearly 60, and he's up until recently. He's playing in charity events. Remember when he came over to Toronto here as well? Yeah. He was with all those Liverpool lads. Holy cow, Walshy and
best day of my career that was
Phil Neal and
yeah.
The Big Dane.
Them into the studio. It was incredible. Yeah.
Whew. They partied, man. It was unbelievable.
Yeah. And Jan Molby patrolling the midfield. Remember that?
Well, I remember I was sitting on the bench with the Liverpool guys, and Jan Molby was so hungover, and they were playing. Remember who's the Canadian indoor legend? Anyway, so he's playing, and he's lights out good. So the Canadian team knew indoor soccer. So they're basically an all-star team, right? Anyway, Liverpool are down like 4-0, and Jan Mobley hasn't even got on the pitch yet. And he's like, "Oh, fuck, let me on." So they put him on. Remember, he had a big belly, and he just owned it. He owned it. He was amazing.
No, Mobley was always a big fella, wasn't he? Let's be honest.
Oh, he was a big lad, yeah. He scored a cracker against me at Anfield in the League Cup quarterfinals in the replay. Or FA Cup replay it was, I think. Yeah.
What a player. Hey, Deech, your best captain?
Best captain was probably Kevin Ball at Sunderland, and I played most of my career at Sunderland. He was an absolute lunatic. His shadow was even scared of him, but he would run through walls. He wasn't the most gifted of players technically, but he was a proper captain, a leader on the field, a leader in the locker room as well. He looked after the boys. The boys were his group, and he would always go to bat for them. He had a good relationship with the gaffer, the coach as well, and that was, I think, when you're a captain of a team, there's so many different variables that you have to manage, and he managed them very, very well. But it was actually interesting because I said, like, he probably put in the most hardest, cringy tackles I've ever seen on a football field. And his wife told us, we had a really good set of friends and social gatherings, and the wives used to hang out together. And it came out that Paulie at home likes to do the ironing by himself in just an apron and high heels. Like, no fucking way, no chance. That can't be our captain, Kevin Ball. And she's like, yeah. He loves doing it with a cup of tea. He likes putting the apron on, doing the ironing, the family ironing, and some heels and an apron. So we said, "Oh, we got to see photo evidence of this." So she said, "I can never give you photo evidence, but ask him." And we asked him, and as he is, Bally is the straightest talker ever. So we asked him just after having a drink, and Stonewall, he answered, "Yeah. What are you fucking going to do about it?" Not much, Bally. But a good captain.
That's like John Moncur. John Moncur used to just get naked. So he would have the apron on. His wife would say he'd just be naked, cooking dinner.
You gotta be careful.
Maybe the high heels were good for his calves.
Yeah.
Doing the Mickelson workout.
No, ironing naked, man. You got to be careful though, because depending on where the ironing board is, that's you're inches away from a trip to the hospital. Put it that way.
Yeah.
All right, boys. Well, that was great. I enjoyed these little Q&As. We don't do them that often, but that was interesting. We'll do another one next week. It's time now for the beer tasting, courtesy our good friends at Amsterdam Brewery. I've got the blonde. I like a good blonde. Deech, you have a blonde as well. Wonga, what's your flavor?
I'm going with the 3-speed.
Excellent
It's
beer.
it's a lager.
Okay.
I'm a lightweight, and I'm enjoying it.
And Jeff, what do you have here?
3-speed as well.
3-speed as well. Okay. And
I've
Craig?
gone for the Irish stout.
Okay, let's start with that, Craig. Let's start with the stout, can we?
Yeah.
Give us a little review.
It's too bad David hasn't got it because I know he doesn't drink. So
No. Never seen a fun in David's stand ever.
let's have a little. Oh, I got the glass too.
That'll put hairs on your chest, that, Craig.
Let's have a little. I should let it sit for a while, but since we're in a hurry.
We understand that. Times.
Oh, that's good.
Really?
You won't have to have supper now.
No. Do you like stout, Dave?
No.
You're just lager?
Just a lager, yeah. Pilsner. Good Pilsner.
Pilsner, okay.
I won't name names because I realize you have them.
Dave's got the thrills for pills.
I'm going to get back to that stout world at some point. So, Craig, you recommend it, eh?
Absolutely. I really do. And I'm a big stout fan.
Is it like Guinness, Craig?
Yeah. Yeah, it's close to that. Probably more like a
Murphy's?
a what, sorry?
Like a Murphy's or a Guinness?
Yeah, like Murphy's.
More so, yeah? All right, I'm going to try that. All right, Jeff, voice of the show.
Yes, sir.
Give us a little review of the IPA, the 3-speed.
So the 3-speed is a delicious all-day drinking beer. It's very sessionable, if you will. Sessionable meaning you can have a session one after the other, as it's only 4.2%. If you look at the lovely golden color, you'll see that there's a lot of elbow grease that goes into this delicious beer. It's that get off the pitch and just pound one into your throat. Craig, you know all about that.
Actually, I don't.
You're also on the 3-speed. Do you agree?
Yeah, I have to say it's a delicious. Actually, it's Jeff Cole, voice of Footy Prime and Border Security, who got me onto this. There's a shameless plug for your other TV show, JC.
Next Monday, season 6 starts recording, so stay tuned, y'all.
Yeah, so
that's my plug.
We also the first day we did it, we were lucky enough to start at around 4 p.m. And Jeff, I didn't have any going out clothes. We went over to Jeff's house after, and we bought another. I think we were drinking out of his fridge, and it was Pabst Blue Ribbon.
Yeah.
We keep drinking at a bar right around the corner, and lucky enough, he walks home. I thought so. I go, I guess my buddy. I went, guess my buddy had left. I try and bike home, and I clean a van, all of its side with my shirt, because I think that it's the safest way to get home is to bike home. And the mirror hit me. I ended up standing up, and the bike was behind me. And I went, all right, this is a little too much. I locked the bike up, took a cab home. I go, Jeff, why'd you leave me at the bar? And he goes, I didn't leave you. I was taking a dump in the basement, and I fell asleep on the shitter. So someone had to, one of the waiters had to find me and go, dude, you closed half an hour ago. Go home.
Yeah. It's like 2:30 in the morning. They're like, sir, it's time for you to go home. I'm like, I am home. They're like, no, sir, you're not. I'm like, oh, I'm not. Okay, can I get another beer? They're like, no, it's 2:30 in the morning. And then the next day in my mailbox was my pair of jeans that I'd loaned Dan Wong. He brought them back.
Cleaned and ironed, because I ironed them in my nude and in my apron.
So David wished he took the option of leaving the podcast when we gave him the chance to leave. He's like, I can't leave now. Fuck, I can't. It's just
The irony being, though, Dan, that you got drunk on 3-speed and then rode a 3-speed home.
That's correct.
Yeah,
that's absolutely truthful.
Yeah, never advisable. All right, Deech, you're on the blonde. How would you rate this blonde?
It's pretty nice. It's light, crispy. I think I could do in England, Jeff. We call an all-dayer a Leo Sayer.
Leo Sayer.
Yeah, a Leo Sayer. Yeah.
That's was he a dancer or a singer?
Huh? Yeah. Singer.
He's a singer, right?
Yeah.
What? Let's go for a Leo Sayer.
Yeah.
Yeah. You just say Leo.
What was it based on? Because Leo Sayer had an afro. He was a white afro dude.
Wonger, it's all the slang. It's all about whether it rhymes or not.
Yeah, all dayer, Leo Sayer.
So if you know the slang well enough, you only use the first word. Like if it was change in your pocket, rifle range. Have you got any rifle?
Right.
You don't have to use the other, the actual rhyme part of it. Like Rosie Lee. I'll have a cup of Rosie.
Apple.
We're such poets. I've got the blonde as well here, and it's really very, very drinkable. Like Deech said, it's crisp, medium bodied, quite hoppy for a lager. I really enjoy this one. Great with the Balti pie, by the way. Experience.
Still waiting for mine.
Hey, I gave you advice, Sharms, on getting into the pie business. I actually gave you that was recommendation for me, so it's not all bad. Although it could be a worse time to start up a fucking pie.
Let's start a new business. When?
Yeah.
When's the next pandemic?
It's kind of like starting up a football league. You know what I mean? Like year 2 and fuck.
When the CPL pie business.
Hey, Sharms.
Yeah.
Are the pies trying to unionize?
Hey, I'm the one employee. So,
yeah. Hey, Clanachan.
Yes.
What do you say about his pies trying to organize?
Yeah, they organize. By the way, I didn't get any beer to the house, and I haven't gotten any pies to the house either. So there you go.
Hey, listen.
He
Scott
doesn't
Mitchell,
deliver that far.
Scott Mitchell got a subscription, so there's a man with a refined palate.
Really?
Oh, did he?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he got his
Hey,
first.
Dave, where do you live? I'll deliver it for you.
I know.
I'm in Burlington.
You speak up on that because
Okay, I'll get Danny to deliver it. He's closer.
I'm getting very busy right now, so I could use some help. All right, listen, guys. Before we leave, I want to mention quickly a good friend of this show and Canadian football in general, Karina LeBlanc. About a month ago, had a beautiful baby girl, Paris, Karina, Kobe, LeBlanc, Methot. Now, soon after, Karina was taken ill. Now, while she was in hospital, she's fine. But while in hospital, she was possibly exposed to COVID-19. So as a result, she had to quarantine herself for 14 days from her newborn baby daughter, which must be, I can't imagine how awful that must be. But just this past couple of days, they were reunited. And you may have seen the video and some of the pictures on Twitter under Karina's feed there. But it's incredible scenes, quite emotional. So Karina, cheers to you and your family. That must have been a tough go, I can imagine. But we're happy that you're healthy. We're happy that you guys are all together where you belong. All right, guys, we're out of time. Mr. Clanachan, thank you so much. That was
You're
great.
very welcome.
Thanks for sticking around the entire show. You're a brave man.
Always a pleasure.
Good.
There was no sports on TV, so I figured I'd stay for the comedy.
All right, fellas. Thank you so much. Make sure you follow us on all social streams. We want to thank, of course, DeanBlundell.com as well, our home away from home. A lot of homes right now, aren't they? Let's be honest with you. About 10 homes we're operating from at the moment. But Deech, Craig, Jeff, and Wonga, thanks so much. Cheers very much for listening.
Thanks, guys. And Jeff, play us out. You got the song?
Oh, I sure do.
All right.
I finally do. This has been Footy Prime, the podcast, with Danny Dicchio, Greg Forrest, and James Sharman. We'd like to thank David Clanachan. Sorry, brother. See, I knew I'd fuck it up.
It's Scottish, Clanachan, like a hard C.
We'd like to thank David Clanachan from the Clan Clanachan.
No, do it, David Beckham. Give us another one. Do it a David Beckham
Probably the
outro.
McDonald's clan.
We'd like to thank David Clanachan for coming on. And Victoria, am I allowed to stay? Can I stay and play with my friends online? No? All right. Producer Dan Wong, me, Jeff Cole. Guys, we'll see you next week. And thank you to Amsterdam, our official beer sponsor.